Hello and welcome to the Villa Park podcast. It's me, Rich, and I'm back with our favourite football analyst, Gareth, to talk about what went wrong against Leicester. Before I introduce you, Gareth, before I say my hellos, it's the first time we've done a defeat, and it feels a bit weird, doesn't it, mate? But yeah, hello first, and how are you doing, mate?
Yeah, hello, Rich. Yeah, I'm all right, mate. Yeah, thanks. Yeah, it is a bit difficult, isn't it, I suppose, but we only spoke about it last time out, and I think we put the cursors on it, to be honest. But yeah, it'd be interesting to analyze. Just to have. There's a lot of things we could have looked at, and a lot of things we could have picked out. Gone through a few little things, so let's see how we go.
Yes, mate. Yes. So, first of all, thank you for everyone tuning in. We are so close to 1,000. I think we're 23 subscribers away from 1,000. So, if you do like what you see, please leave a like on this video and please do subscribe if you're new to the channel, or if you've been watching and you haven't subscribed yet, because help us get to that 1K. But yeah, as you say, Gareth, we've got loads to get through. Our usual, one of our favourites is our kind of passing combinations, and you wanted to spend quite a bit of time on this. We've got 2 or 3 slides on this. So first one is, I think this is the first half, because obviously Dini's playing. What did you notice first about this first slide and in the first half in terms of passing combinations?
Yeah, I think we spoke about this last time, that we started to see certain sort of combinations appearing between sort of Mings, Luiz, Digne, Konsa, Kamara, and Young out in sort of wide areas, little triangles. So I noticed as I was plotting this and all the passing sort of sticking on it, there was sort of bit of a difference really, because we saw a lot more passing between Mings and Konsa, and also between those two and Luiz and out to Kamara. So we can see that I think Luiz completed something like 93 passes in the game. So that's high. I mean, I know we had a lot of possession and everything, but that is still quite high for one of ours. And yeah, it was just a bit different, really. I think Ramsey not involved. I think that's why he was took off eventually. But yeah, we can certainly see a lot more sort of play within central areas.
Yeah, definitely. And we'll come to the second half, because I think Digne and Ramsey were the ones that were taken off. And I went to the game, actually. I took my son for his birthday, and not that it was a great birthday present for him, but we had a great day anyway. But what I noticed was Digne probably didn't touch the ball for about 15 minutes. And
Yeah.
And Ramsey generally, and that slide shows it, that he only really picked the ball up off scraps. Like, he only picked the ball up if we won it, or it bounced in and around that kind of attacking third, and then he could run with it. But he didn't really receive any passes.
No, I think from memory, I think Digne completed 13 passes, and I think Ramsey completed even less. So
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not surprised at that at all. I just thought there was no sort of clear pattern that we were sort of trying to play out. We were just trying to play through central areas. And it's clear that, Leicester usually play with a 4-1-4-1. So you're not going to get through them in central areas particularly well. We didn't sort of try to do much else. That was what sort of the outlet through Digne and Young was sort of nullified. So we decided that we'd just play through central areas, and it just wasn't going to work.
Yeah. Well, like you say, he obviously changed it at half time with half time substitutions. We can say that they're maybe a bit more proactive. Maybe Smith or Gerrard wouldn't necessarily have done that. And he brought Moreno on, and that obviously, looking at this in the average position that he's in, made a big difference. But still, that similar passing combination though between Mings, Konsa, and Luiz.
Yeah, I mean, obviously we're keeping sort of, all we're doing really here is taking off the players and adding the players on the substitute. So we're keeping all the passes the same. So the Mings, Konsa, Luiz thing will stay, but you can then start to see it opens it up a little bit for Luiz to Buendia, just that little bit more. Buendia out to Moreno, that little bit more. But what we're really sort of keen on here is average positions. We're really looking at sort of the highness of Moreno. We can clearly see that Cash was brought on to make that sort of hybrid back three, and Moreno down the left-hand side.
Yeah. So one of the other things that's quite that we're seeing there is obviously the big passing combination between Mings and Konsa, but not so much to Martinez this time. That, like, he wasn't necessarily involved as much in those starting those moves, because in the past he's been heavy in terms of passing to those centre backs.
Yeah, I've seen a lot of noise again on Twitter about this playing out from the back and things like that. And this is the way that he wants them to play. You've got we'll get onto that obviously in a little while, but you've got no reason to, as fans to start getting on at players because that's what they do. They don't do it at the Etihad. They don't get on at City. I know players are players and they have to have the ability to be able to do so, but these players have got the ability to play out from the back. He wouldn't attempt it if they didn't. So, yeah, it's just one of those it's just how you play out from there. It's what happens in that second phase that I think we're not quite there yet.
Yeah, because when it worked, some of the football was fantastic, was frightening.
Exactly.
The way that they could play that one-touch football, players getting into the positions already so that they could receive the ball, like Watkins looking before he's received the ball to where he's going to pass it. There's things that I saw in that Villa team that I've not seen in years, in terms of that fluid passing movements.
Yeah. The big thing with passing out from the back and why managers tend to do it is because you've got so many options once you beat a press, or even in the initial phase, you've got so many options because you're not just banging a long ball up to a centre forward. You've got options to play out wide, you can play central, and then you've got plenty of options in open play. That's why managers tend to do it, because it's not just a long ball scenario. You've got plenty of options, but it's just getting that right. We've got the players to do that, especially in Douglas Luiz. We've really got that central midfielder who can make that difference passing wise.
Yeah. We'll have a quick look at the player influence slide, because you see Luiz's influence there. I think one of the surprising ones, and again, this hammers home to what you were saying about the trying to go through the middle so much, is because in the past weeks when we've done this, the kind of influence, like the font size for the players, has been quite well spread, but this time it was right through the middle there.
Yeah, I mean, again, what a difference a week makes.
Yeah.
Because you can just see that the Dini was so, which I wasn't surprised to see that, and Watkins, Ramsey, but Ramsey really surprised me. It was visibly noticeable in the game that he just wasn't getting involved at all. We'll have a look at it again a bit later on, but they tried to get into Buendia. The two midfielders are supposed to be getting into these sort of half space areas, if you like, and he's just not adapted to that at all. He's just not that sort of, I don't know how to describe it, but he's not adapted to this at all, unfortunately, just yet.
Yeah, it'll take time. Hopefully he does, because he's young enough. But and obviously he's been out with injury as well, so that can make an impact as well. But yeah, it was just interesting to see that it kind of went back to the kind of the old ways in terms of how we were playing a little bit, which shows Emery's going to take time to put across his methods, and that's understandable, Quick look at the XG timelines and XG. I guess what's this telling us? I think I don't think Leicester could have scored any easier goals, to be fair.
No, I think I registered something like we had 19 shots versus their 9. Which is incredible when you look at this, because you would think that Leicester have dominated the game, dominated possession. They didn't. We had 63% of the possession. They didn't dominate the game whatsoever. But what they did is they made their efforts on goal count. And this is exactly what we see here. Look at the multitude of shots we can see from Villa. But yeah, a lot of them were, as we'll see on the shot map, a lot of them were from out. Yeah, there we go. A lot of them for outside the box, low XG. Leicester's, look at the 4. Higher XG.
It's crazy, man.
It's just 4 goals from 9 shots, and the expected goals on target was 2.3 anyway. So they'd have probably got near on 3 anyway. And ours is just at 2. So that's where data can show a really sort of interesting point of view, because those watching the game think, well, Villa were dominant for 6. How did they lose the game 4-2? That's what the data's there for. That's what it can show us.
Exactly. And when we were walking back, or I was driving back, I was like, I literally don't remember Martinez actually having to make any sort of save apart from just picking the ball out of the net, and that shows the kind of ease of the chances that they had. And I know we're going to focus a bit on the second goal in particular in the second, but yeah, it was just one of those games. I think I said on our last episode on the podcast, it's like, I know we've kind of been tempting this fate in 1 or 2 games previously, but is it better to get all these mistakes out in one game rather than like one mistake over, in a space of 4 games? I'm not too sure.
Yeah, I mean, it's a fair point. I mean, mistakes are always going to happen. Every team does them. It's just how much you can limit them, and the players are responsible for limiting those mistakes. So it's up to them to be able to do it. You have to trust in your players to be able to not make those mistakes. But unfortunately at Villa, it just seems to be the way that we do make a fair few mistakes that end up costing us sort of vital points.
Exactly. Yeah. So we're gonna get on to kind of our still shots now, and you've done a great job on this, Gareth. I know you've been struggling with getting some of the footage, so thank you so much for getting it. As I say, guys, if you like what you see, please do leave a like on the video. Please do subscribe to the channel if you are new. But yes, Gareth, on this one, what are you seeing here? You put defensive line and allowance of runners. Now, is that something that Emery's wanting to, like? Is it a tactical thing, or is it a mistake in terms of the players on the pitch?
I mean, I think it is a mistake. I don't think. I mean, this was as we'll end up seeing in sort of the following shot that follows it. It's end up being of Jamie Vardy offside. But this should not happen. He will not want this to happen. It doesn't matter. Again, I mentioned this again, I think again on Twitter, sort of after the game or during the game, and got a little bit of slack for it. But, well, it was offside anyway. It doesn't matter. The manager would not want this. This is sort of a massive no-no. This is what ends up happening from it. Obviously, Vardy ends up going back through and he's offside. But that is too close to call. People say, well, that's a good defensive line. Yeah, it probably is a good defensive line. But you must see the back. Centre-halves will always tell you, always look at the shirt numbers. You must see shirt numbers. You're not seeing shirt numbers going the other way. They are goals. They're not even goal side, those centre-halves. Contra are not even. They have to be set. Whether they're trying to play a high offside line or not is different. But, they've not even stepped up. You can't say that they're trying to play offside there because they're running back. They're having to run back towards their own goal. They're not facing the other way.
It's like a panic, isn't it?
Yeah, they've not got their hands in the air raising for an offside. And I've highlighted Emi Buendia on the top right of the screen there.
Yeah.
And the reason I've done that, he is clearly shouting about what's going on there. He's pointing that way. He's clearly shouting something about what's going on. So he can see what's going on. He's got a concern there. He's not shouting, oh, offside, play offside. They are running back towards their own goal, those two centre-halves, and he wouldn't want them to be doing that. And I would guarantee that this would be highlighting in a team meeting.
Yeah, my issue as well, and again, this will come with the second goal, which is the final slide that we're going to look at, which was a catalogue of errors. Is I just see like the body shapes of all the defenders is wrong, and it's almost like they're ball watching a lot, and I just think. Like for me, it was, and I said this on our last episode, is you've got to have an idea of where the man is, and you've got to have an idea of where the ball is. And for me, they're just completely ball watching. Yeah,
well, this pass has basically come from around sort of, I think it's Mendy for Leicester, sort of like the right. Yeah, I think it's I can't remember where the pass had come from, but it's come from distance. So it's come from over a long way. They've seen that ball coming over a long way, and although this is offside, imagine if it's not offside and Vardy gets that ball, he's crossing that and Maddison is sliding that straight into the net. It's not good enough. That's not good enough.
Yeah. And then next couple of slides here are looking at, I guess, the tactics that he wanted to employ with that box midfield. Now, what were the reasons for that? Was that to try and sort of outnumber Leicester in midfield? Because I kind of felt it backfired a little bit because Kamara was left exposed quite a lot when we were on the ball.
Yeah, well, this is what I mentioned earlier. Ramsey in the half spaces. We know that Villa like to play a box midfield, which is basically when we're in possession, you've got the two sort of CDMs, Louise and Kamara, and then you've got Ramsey and Buendia who come into central areas to try and get on the ball to then either play out to, play out to the fullbacks who are high or play through to the centre forwards or whatever's on at the time. But yeah, as I said earlier, this plays into Leicester's hands. Leicester went into a 4-4-2 out of possession. So therefore, what are you going to do? Because you've got Kamara and Louise up against sort of like two centre forwards there, and then Ramsey and Buendia up against another two. So you're not creating any space in that midfield. You can't sort of do that, and they're just too narrow. They're just too narrow for me.
You've put I think you've
There
put
was
that on this one here, further down here.
there was
Are we
no
too? Yeah, we're
Yeah,
too
there was
narrow
no
here.
sort of. It wasn't a double pivot. It wasn't one like normally Louise sort of Kamara is deep. Louise is in front of him. There wasn't any of that. They were two. They were very sort of flat side by side together. There was no sort of dropping deeper, like I say, in that double pivot, so that one can get on the ball, thread through to another, and you can push then your other midfielders like Brendia and Ramsey further up the pitch into sort of better, higher half space areas and occupy that back four a little bit more.
Yeah. It was. I mean, Leicester are a good side as well. Let's not forget, Maddison's a very good player, and I felt they were a team that showed that they were in a completely false position in the league. Now that's their own fault, and maybe we went through them, tried to go through the middle because their weakness has been at centre back. But I think they've probably solved that now with Harry Suter because he looked quite strong and he was a. I mean, he's about 6'7", so you're not going to win many headers against him either.
No, you're not. But it's I agree to an extent, but at the end of
Yeah.
the day, you're playing at home. You've got to make these
Yes.
decisions and solve these problems on the pitch. You can't, as much as Leicester are, I agree, Leicester are a good side and their position probably is a little bit false, but they're not. They're not in the greatest vein of form, if you
No.
like. They're not,
No.
then they're the teams that we should be beating if we want to sort of further up. These are the teams we should, especially at home.
Yeah.
And conceding 4 goals is quite poor, to be honest.
Yes, I agree. Well, that takes us nicely into that final slide, which is the second goal. Which, when we talk about ball watching, I mean, I don't think I've ever seen anything like it, to be honest.
No, I was absolutely raging when I saw this as an opposition analyst. Absolutely raging. Don't forget, before this cross has come in for the goal, Mings has already cleared one cross out.
Yeah.
He should be set. You should be
Yeah.
set. He should be. That ball is. He clearly got the ball comes back to the. I think can't remember who the player was who crossed it now, but
I
it
think
comes back
Barnes
out.
crossed it to
Yeah, it's
Iheanacho.
going to come
Yeah.
back. It's going to come back in again. He's got no idea. He's got no idea where Iheanacho is, and and don't let anybody tell you anything otherwise. This was a Mings mistake, and I'm not one to dig out players or anything else like that. But he will know that. He will know that.
It's all about body position. You've got to be. You've got to be 70% man, 30% ball. And if he's opened out, he can see where the player is and then he can attack it. And then
Yeah.
you've got Digne not coming around on the cover, which is obviously the secondary mistake because he, like you said, the ball's been cleared already. So he knows the ball's coming back in. You should be round there. Like, there's no doubt about it.
I mean, everyone should, he is, in all honesty, he is also a victim of that back four not shuffling across.
Yeah.
Ashley Young is out wide covering the cross, and there's plenty of other players in there. Buendia's got his man, he's got Castagna, he's done his bit. Digne has to shuffle across to Tate, Mings has to come across to Iheanacho, Conter has to come across as well. Douglas Luiz can see all this. Why is he not mentioning anything? Come across. Martinez, the goalkeeper, why is he not saying come across?
Yeah.
This is basic defending. Again, he will be fuming at that. It's just so basic, and it's so frustrating really to see that because it's all about positioning.
Yeah. Like you say, I mean, it was. I don't think Iheanacho will ever score an easier goal, and he loves scoring against Villa. We always seem to. He always seems to get a goal against us. But just in kind of conclusion, I guess it was a good game of football. As you say, there was a lot of things that we can't excuse. The mistakes, conceding 4 goals at home. But like we said before, when it worked, it was some real great football. I guess what can we take in terms of like essential positives, but also like, it was obviously clearly a work in progress for Emery. So, what would you say in terms of taking that further on into the next few weeks?
Yeah, I mean, I think offensively, I think we're building up. We're a decent side. We've got passes in we've got Douglas Luiz. We've got passes in the team who can build up, play well, who can do it well. I think defensively is where we sort of, when we're put under pressure defensively for periods in the game, is when we tend to sort of almost buckle a little bit.
Yeah.
So we just need to improve that resilience, I think, and the only way you do that is by keeping the ball away from your own goal.
Yeah. And that was said. I think Emery almost hinted at that, kind of know when to clear it and not to be stupid and try and overplay or try and play in silly areas. That decision making has to come into it. There's a certain element of, yes, you want to play how the manager wants you to play, but you're the guys on the pitch, you're in that situation. It's better kicking the ball out of play and resetting for a throw in than, presenting a chance to James Maddison where he just has to tap it into the net.
Yeah, exactly. You've just got to make better decisions. I think, like you say, I think we were better once we had Mings and Konsa sort of a bit wider and Douglas Luiz pushed up and Kamara just sitting. So you just got three players in your own half, if you like, to be simple about it, and then push everybody else up a little bit more. As long as you're not playing against a strong counter-attacking team, you're probably going to be all right because you can retreat fairly well. But it's just about getting that balance right, about sort of really kicking on and pushing in those attacking phases and then defending better when you can. I think Carlos coming back will be a big thing. I think that'll be a big swing for us.
Well, he's used to that continental style a little bit more. Obviously, there's the pace of the Premier League to take into account, but he's kind of used to that. And he's got that physical presence, hasn't he, in terms of being able to hold people off. So, that'll be good. Man City up next, Gareth. It doesn't get any easier, does it, with Man City than Arsenal coming up?
No, it doesn't get any easier. I mean, unfortunately, my missus is a Man City fan, so it's not going to be a great weekend for me. But we'll see. It's all about getting things right. You never know this Villa team. It's a sort of thing that end up getting a result.
Yeah.
You just don't know. But it's one of them things. It's going to be, it's going to be a tricky one, isn't it?
Absolutely. But I'm sure we'll be back with a Talking Tactics show. Hopefully with a positive result, whether that be a point or even better 3. But thanks so much, Gareth, for your time and for these slides. It's fantastic. And you've got your Twitter handle there, growing in popularity every week, mate. So get following at that Gareth YJC, and we'll be back next week with a Talking Tactics show. Please, as I said before, we're so close to 1,000 subscribers. So do please leave a like on this video, help spread the word of the channel, and please do subscribe if you are new. Like I say, Gareth, thanks so much for joining us. It's been a pleasure, mate. And as always, everyone, remember, we all follow the Villa. Thanks a lot, guys. Bye-bye.